Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's Annie here, Annie Bennett. Yes, for those of you that are new, have not seen a Waffle Wednesday before or not been here for very long, I'm Annie Bennett, and I run the Home Baking Business Community UK and also the Home Baking Professionals Society, which is my lovely membership. And I'm also coming to you from my Facebook page as well. So wherever you are seeing me from or joining me from, good evening to you. I'm going to have to put my glasses back on now. I took them off because they glare. I realised I need to get some anti-glare ones. Hi, Lucy. Hello, lovely. Nice to see you here. Yes, I was just looking on Amazon just before I came on because it suddenly occurred to me that I need some of those anti-glare glasses, but I need them in the prescription that I need so that I can still see. That's the way it is. So if you are here, where's my doodad? There it is. Let me know if you're watching on replay, because I do like to know if people are watching afterwards or joining in afterwards. So if you are watching afterwards, hello. I will try and say hello if you do write a comment to say that you're watching. I do try and do that. Let's turn that off because that drives up the wall. Who have we got? Oh, hello, Charlene. Hello, Julia. Oh, Lucy's got your eye test tomorrow. So next week you should get your new glasses. Fabulous. Yes, I had my eye test finally over Christmas or just before Christmas. And I have contact lenses, but I need glasses for when I take my lenses out. But I also, when I've got my lenses in, I need reading glasses. Because I'm very old, and otherwise I'd have to have bifocals, and I wasn't going to have that. I'm not there yet. So yes, so all the glass. Hello, Jeanette. Hello, my lovely. Oh, it's so nice to see you all here. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Oh, and I've got love hearts too. How lovely. Yeah, the more you comment and do likes and love hearts and malarkey, the more that Facebook goes, oh, perhaps we'll better tell people that Annie's on. Which is fabulous. So thank you for all that. Yes, so before I waffle on, sorry, move my hair out the way, it's driving me up the wall today. Yes, this evening, what are we talking about this evening? I've got my lovely whiteboard here. Once a teacher, always a teacher. Hi, Alex. Hello, nice to see you. Yes, we're talking about registering this evening. It occurred to me towards the end of last year in the group, lots of people were, as lots of people often do, just commenting about all sorts of things. But one comment that kept cropping up was registering, and some people getting confused about what type of registering and getting a bit muddled, which is easy to do, of course. So I thought I'd just do a live this evening. Just clarifying what the different registrations it should be, shouldn't it? Yeah, that's what it should be. I have been recently written a blog as well on the same thing, and that's the notes that I'm going to be reading to make sure I keep myself on track. Don't go off at a tangent. And I've scheduled the link to the blog to go into the Facebook group at about 8 o'clock this evening. So if you're a reader rather than a listener, it's there, and there's some pretty pictures and links and all sorts of things in there. So registering your home baking business. As I said, there's often confusion with people getting muddled because there's two main types of registration, two main places that you need to register your home baking business. So I'm going to talk about both of them because they're both very different, and you do them at different times and so on. One of them is actually registering your food business, and that's with your council. Okay, and that is to get your hygiene rating, hopefully 5. So that's one registering you need to do. I'll come back onto that in a minute. And the second registering you need to do is with the tax people, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, bit of a mouthful, Hmrc, And that is so that you can let them know how much money you've earned and how much tax you need to pay. So there's two, okay, two registerings. Let's talk about the food business one first. So I'll go through very quickly what that's all about. There's also confusion. Oh, hang on, let's turn my phone off. Hang on, makes a boing noise because it makes me laugh. There is confusion over when you should register, whether hobby bakers need to register. Do you need to register if you're for a charity? All that kind of stuff. So hopefully I will clarify this for you. Now, in some groups I've seen, people are saying that the rules changed during lockdown. They didn't actually. The law as it stands now, I think, has been around since 2016. I may be wrong, but I think it's around there. So it's been around for quite a few years. What happened during lockdown was that the Food Standards Agency realised that there were lots of people setting up. So what they did was they put more on their website, and they put sort of clarifications on their website saying, this is what you must do. So some people misinterpreted that as the law has changed. It didn't. It's been like that for 2016. That'll be 6 years now, isn't it? Because we're 22 now. So just to make that quite clear, the law didn't change during lockdown. Basically, you need, for registering your food business, obviously, if you're a business and you're making profit, obviously you need to register. Okay. And the difference is, are you earning money for your bakes or are you not? If you're earning money for your bakes, even if you're taking ingredient money, that is classed as a business, so you must register. Some people seem to be under the impression that you can just take ingredient money and you'll be all right. You shouldn't really, because if money changes hands, that's classed as a business transaction. So you shouldn't do that. If you are not taking money and you're doing it for free, for the goodness of your heart, for charity, all that kind of wonderful stuff, then the phrase you need to know about, and I'll read it because I've written it here. The Food Standards Agency phrase is, if you are providing food on a regular and organised basis, you are a food business under food law, whether or not any money is changing hands. Okay. So if you are doing things for, for school fetes or something, if it's one fete in the summer, that's not regular and organised. It's not regular. Okay. If on the other hand, you were baking for the PTA that happened every Friday and they were selling things every Friday during the year, that would be regular and organised. You would need to register for that. Okay. So if it's sort of ad hoc, no, you don't. But if it's regular, it's organised, then you do. If you're sort of on the cusp and you're not quite sure, then the person to ask is your environmental health officer. An email to your council, find your EHO and ask them and they'll clarify. It must be said, though, as we have found out in this group, that EHOs can vary in their opinions of all sorts of things. So what one person's EHO says might not be necessarily agreed by another person's EHO. So it's best to go with, what yours says, to be really, really safe. Okay. So that's registering your food business, and you must do that before you start trading. Okay. So that's the registering you must do before you start selling anything. So what happens is you go onto the government website, you put in your postcode, they then tell you which council you're at, and they tell you which forms that council wants. They send you, hello, Facebook user, they send you to the right place. You can go direct to the council, but you might as well go onto the government site because they find it all for you. They just direct you to the right place, so it's slightly quicker. But it doesn't matter if you go straight to the council. And then what will happen is the EHO, the environmental health officer, will at some point contact you and say, I've got your application. I need to inspect you. Some EHOs we have discovered are saying, no, I don't need to inspect you, you're exempt. Not all of them do. So don't rely on that at all, because that's really not commonplace. That's quite unusual for that to happen. Most of them will say, or will not contact you very quickly, and will get around to you eventually. And some occasions they get back to you within a week. So it really depends on who your EHO is, what kind of workload they've got. I mean, bear in mind, I'm always saying this, that EHOs have all sorts of responsibilities in their remit. They're looking after farms, they're looking after factories, they're looking after restaurants and takeaways and all sorts of really quite potentially dangerous places, you know, environmental health wise. So, you know, a small home baking business is really low risk, is really on the bottom of their priority list really. The only thing that really is potentially hazardous with us is the allergen issue and labelling and all that kind of stuff. But generally we're considered quite low risk. So once you've registered, once you've sent in your application, they will then contact you to make an appointment. They usually make an appointment. Sometimes they don't, but usually they do. You then have 28 days before you can start trading. And that's whether you've had an inspection or not. Okay. Some EHOs have contacted the baker and said, oh, yes, you can start trading straight away. That's fine. In which case, that's fine. But don't do that unless your EHO specifically says you can. I've seen people in other Facebook groups saying, oh, no, it's fine. You can trade straight away. Be very wary of, I'm always very wary actually of the advice some people give in other Facebook groups, because they're sort of second, third, fourth hand. I'm often saying this, aren't I? Second, third, fourth hand. And the source of it isn't perhaps as sort of legit, if you like. I mean, I don't want to put anyone down, but I like to think that if I'm giving you information, it's straight from the government website or the food agency website, or, you know, I make sure I find the right information for you. So that is registering your food business as a food business to get your hygiene award. Okay, do that straight away before you start trading. Okay. If there are any questions, by the way, please do ask. I'm more than happy to answer a question if you have any. Oh, someone in the Facebook group asked about animal feeds. If you go on to, or if you Google actually starting an animal feed business, you'll be directed to the Food Standards Agency website, where it goes through it for you. And I believe that you have to register through the trading standards rather than your environmental health department. Okay, there are quite a few. I was quite surprised actually that there are probably more regulations for pets and animals than there are for humans. It is quite in depth, quite intense, all the things you have to do and not do for food, for pets, you know, dog treats, cat treats, that kind of thing. But yes, that's via the trading standards, but a quick Google will get you to the right place for that one. Okay. So have I mentioned everything I wanted to mention there? Yes, I think I have. So that's food hygiene. How much? Oh, blimey. Very quick answer, Jeanette, because that can be quite a long answer. You don't have to have two sinks. As long as you wash the sink and do the 2-stage clean in between each one, then most EHOs are more than happy with just one, if you can show that you're cleaning properly in between. Okay, I did do, if you look in the guide section in the group, I did a food hygiene talk. I can't remember when, but if you scroll back, you'll see it says food hygiene, and I talk about the 2-stage clean in that, I think. Okay, you're very welcome. I registered January 2021. Yes, I could start to trade, but not heard anything from them since. That's quite common, actually, my lovely. Yeah, a year is quite common. What I generally suggest to people is just send them a quick email to say, hello, I'm still here. I know some people have said, I want to start trading at a market and the market won't let me unless I've got a 5. In which case I say to them, write to your EHO, explain that for your business purposes, you need this. And I think most of them will say, okay, then I'll come out and see you. So just a quick email, just a bit of a nudge, say, hello, haven't heard from you, everything all right? How's your kids? That kind of thing, But let's say it's not uncommon for a year. If you ask in the group or search in the group for that kind of thing, and you'll see people saying, they've waited over a year. And then some people say, oh, no, it was a week. So who knows? But yeah, quick email, just a bit of a nudge. Okay. All right. So that's registering your food business. Okay. Now, the other type of registering that often gets confused, and I see an awful lot of misinformation about this one, the second, third, fourth hand information about this one, is registering with the Hmrc, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. Basically, obviously, they're the people that sort the tax out, how much tax you need to pay. And yes, if you've got a business, it may well be that you need to register with them. Again, lots of misinformation here. It used to be, I think before, oh, you're very welcome, my lovely. It used to be before, I think it was 2017, that as soon as you started trading, you had to register with the tax people before, I think, 3 months or something. That seems to change now. That has changed now. What they did was they brought in something called the trading allowance or the hobby allowance, which means that you can have an income on your business of up to £1,000. If you don't go over 1,000, and that's just income, that's not with any expenses or anything taken away. So if your customers, if you add it all up and they have given you £1,000, then you must do a self-assessment. Okay. So what you don't need to do is register with the Hmrc as soon as you start trading. Okay, you've got a bit more time than that. They're not going to come and knock at your door. The men with the bowler hats and the umbrellas. They're not going to do any of that. And the trading allowance is £1,000, but across a tax year. So I see a lot of people that say, oh, I got to my £1,000. That means I've got to register now. It doesn't actually. What you've got to do is think of it in terms of your tax year. So between April last year, so if you started after April last year, okay, what you need to have been doing is adding up your income. And then when it gets to April this year, because we're in this year now, if you're more than 1,000, that is when you have to register with the Hmrc. Okay. If you have registered already and you've not got to 1,000, it doesn't matter. It just means that you've got to do a self-assessment whether you get to 1,000 or not. If you register, they want to see a self-assessment from you. But if you don't get to 1,000, you don't need to register. You don't need to fill in a self-assessment if you don't usually. Okay, obviously, if you do one every year anyway for other bits and pieces, then you would just, fill it out accordingly. So registering for Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, Hmrc, for tax purposes, it's called self-assessment, tax self-assessment. That's generally what it's called now. So think of it in terms of a tax year. Think of it in terms of, by the time I get to April, will I have taken in more than £1,000? If I have, that's when I need to register. And you have so much time to do it in. You've got from April this year, if you need to do a self-assessment, you've got until October to register, and then the following January to actually fill it in. So people are now coming up to the deadline for the last tax year that ended in April last year. This is where it gets confusing, because we go across so many years in each sort of tax year cycle. So I might have completely confused you all over this. I shouldn't laugh, really. I am going to be doing a Waffle Wednesday on finances. I think the 9th of February, I think I put that in for. So I will explain in more details about the Hmrc, about self-assessment, about how it works. I used to be a bookkeeper, you see, and I've got a self-assessment qualification, so I know a little bit about how it works, and I know the ins and outs of it a little bit, and I know the ins and outs of the Hmrc website as well, which is actually very well written. It's very clearly written. So yes, so if you want to know more about Hmrc, taxes, that kind of thing, I'll talk about that on February the 9th. Oh, we have a question. Shall I put this question up so we can all see it? Hang on, here we are. Slightly different question. If we are going to rent someone's kitchen, do we need to have our own risk assessment temperature check forms, or can we use the one? Oh, the coffee shop does. Oh, that's an interesting question. I would say that if you are using things like the cafe's fridge for your ingredients, you will need to make sure that that fridge is in working order. So I would suggest that you sort of carry on their monitoring of that fridge, if that makes sense. They are likely to have a cleaning schedule in place, so you would just follow that. They would have opening and closing checks in place. So if you follow their paperwork, their routines for their kitchen, you're not going to need to do anything different, because they know their kitchen, and they know what to clean, when to clean it, how often to clean it. So, I mean, depending on how long you rent it for. So if you're, I don't know, off the top of my head, if you're renting it for Monday and Tuesday, then you would need to carry on their routines during that Monday and Tuesday. Okay, you need to follow their cleaning schedule. You'd need to follow their opening and closing checks. Okay, so I would suggest you just carry on what they have in place. Okay. I hope that makes sense. But obviously your EHO will, oops, let's get rid of that. Your EHO will guide you on that one. But I'm just thinking that if the cafe has put all these things in place and it works for them, then just carry them on and carry them on yourself. Yes, you're very welcome. Righty-ho. So, yes, so to sum up then, I was always taught in teaching, you tell them what you're going to teach them, you teach them, and then you tell them what you've taught them. So I'm going to tell you what I taught you now. So to sum up, registering, two types of registering. Food business to get your award, your 5 award. Straight away, soon as you've submitted your application, after 28 days, you can trade, whether you've been inspected or not. You might wait months, years for your inspection, but you'll get there eventually. And second registration is with the tax people, with money. There's no hurry. There's no, panicking about, oh, I need to do it now because I've got £1,000. No, you get plenty of time. And if you stick with us in this group, I will give you reminders and all sorts of things. So, you'll be okay if you stick with us. So we're talking about tax years then. But join me on the 9th of February and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. And I'll talk a little bit also about expenses, those kind of things. Okay. And for those that want things in a lot more detail, I'm going to be putting on another sort of paid session, which will be a lot longer and a lot more detail, answering a lot more questions with more resources and things like that. That will be coming up soon. I do that for my society, my Home Baking Professional Society. but I will open that up for a fee for other people as well, if you want a lot more detail on that one. Okay, but watch this space. That one's coming up. Okay. Alrighty-ho. Oh, gosh, look. I like to keep these to half an hour because I don't want to go on for too long. And look, it's 5 to 8. Are there any more questions on any of that? Hopefully that's clarified things. It is very confusing when you start a business, isn't it? Because you don't know what you don't know. And you go into all these cake groups and you've got people saying all sorts of things and you don't know what's true and you don't know, where they've got their information from and all that kind of stuff. But generally in this group, I do keep an eye on what people say. And if I see a comment or something that's not quite right or not quite true, or they've got the wrong information, I'll either write something or I'll just delete the comment. A couple of weeks ago, I had to get rid of someone who kept saying to people, oh, no, you don't have to register. Oh, no, you don't have to tell your landlord. So I had to remove them because let's just say they weren't a good fit in our group. We want to be able to do things properly. And I want to show you how to do things properly. I'm not one for sort of going around the loopholes and doing things on the sly and all that kind of stuff. We're here to do it properly, aren't we? Yes, we are. Righty-ho then, my lovelies. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been nice to have you here. If you've got any more questions, ask in the group, I will say. Tag me in. Thank you, makes sense. Oh, good. Just one more question. Can we bake and give out some samples for free if we all registered? Can't speak this evening. Do you know what? That's an interesting question. I can't imagine that your EHO would have too much problem with that, to be honest. I don't want to say yes, you're fine doing it because I don't know for certain, but I can't imagine EHOs would be very cross if you did that. So as usual, if I'm not quite sure, you'd perhaps want to just check with your EHO because I couldn't say for certain on that one. But the chances are I shouldn't think that would be a problem, to be honest. Okay. Sorry, that was not really much of an answer, was it? But again, you might find some EHOs that say, yeah, that's fine, and others that say, no, you must wait. So go with what your EHO says on that. And you're very welcome, everybody. It's lovely to have you here. Yeah, so if you've got any questions, and tag me in the group, because sometimes I just don't see posts and I don't see things. And I scroll through, at the weekend sometimes when I've got a few minutes. Which isn't often, but there we go. I'll scroll through the group and go back and back and back just to see what's been going, to check I haven't missed anything. And there's often a post or something or other, and someone's asked a question and I haven't seen it. So I'll never knowingly ignore anybody. And if I don't answer, then nudge me, just tag me again. Sometimes I might take a couple of days, but I'll get there eventually. So I'm there to help. You can email me. Try not to message me though, Facebook message, because I have been getting a lot of those and I can't deal with all those. But I do sit down at my emails and answer all those at some point. But you're best off putting it in the group, then I can answer and everyone can see it and everyone can get the benefit of the answer as well. All right. Okay then, my lovelies. I will it there. I'm going to have my dinner now. I've got a nice baked potato churning away in the oven. Lovely. Cheese. That's all I have a baked potato for, is all the cheese on top. There we go. Righty-ho. So I will see you next week. Next week, I think I'm talking about pricing, I think. Another little session about pricing. You're very welcome, Alex. Nice that you joined us. So next week, about pricing. Okie dokie. But I'll let you know in the group what that's all about and give you reminders and all that. All right then, my lovelies. Nice to see you. Have a lovely week, a lovely weekend, and I will see you next week. All right. Toodaloo. Toodaloo.